We're ready now.
Fantastic. Next item on our agenda is the consideration of Westminster Public Schools' request to approve its innovation application on behalf of John E. Flynn Marzano Academy. I ask that staff give a brief presentation before I take a motion, please. Commission.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to turn this over to Bill Cottonsteady, Executive Director of Schools of Choice.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, members of the board.
Good afternoon.
In your packets, you will find information related to the innovation application from Westminster Public Schools on behalf of the John E. Flynn Marzano Academy. The intent behind the proposed plan is to implement a school model that is built around competency-based system design and also to provide the school with the requisite flexibilities and autonomies to operate effectively under the Marzano educational approach. The school has been approved by Westminster for innovation status. Currently, Westminster has 2 schools operating under innovation status: Westminster Academy for International Studies and Colorado STEM Academy. Flynn Marzano Academy will be Westminster's 3rd innovation school. The school's innovation plan seeks waivers from state statutes as outlined in the memo. Most of these are customary waiver requests that we see in many innovation applications. As requested by the board, we provide additional analysis on licensure waiver requests. The analysis is provided as one of your attachments. In summary, upon staff analysis, we believe the proposed replacement plan meets the intent and is similar to other licensure waivers you have granted. At this time, the action item before the board today is to affirm Westminster Public Schools as a district of innovation by approving the innovation application. I am available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Do you have a motion, please? Ms. Goff?
Oh, don't forget your microphone. Thank you.
Off. All right. I move to affirm Westminster Public Schools as a district of innovation by approving the Innovation School application for John E. Flynn Marzano Academy.
Proper motion. Do I have a second? Board Member Schaffel seconded. Is there discussion? Any concerns? All right, would you call the vote, please?
Board Member Durham. Yes. Board Member Flores.
Yes.
Board Member Goff.
Yes.
Board Member McClellan.
Yes.
Board Member Rankin.
Yes.
Board Member Shuffle.
Yes.
Board Member Schroeder.
Yes.
Thank you. That passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank
Next
you.
on the, oh, thank you, Mr. Cotton. Next item on the agenda is an update from Commissioner Anthus.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I recognize normally I do this in the morning, so I'm shortening it because we're we're doing this in the afternoon.
Well, yesterday morning, so you don't get to
I
shorten
know.
it.
Okay. No, actually, it has been quite a busy month. I always go back through my calendar in preparation for these reports just to see what I was up to, and I'm like, wow, we were busy. But the first thing I did want to just say is we were pleased to receive official approval on our ESSA plan, Every Student Succeeds Act plan from the federal government, so that is approved and done, and we're glad to be moving forward on that. So that is behind us, and now we just do the hard work of implementation. I will say that we received the results. We do a teaching and learning conditions survey in Colorado every 2 years. And we received results on that survey that we sent out, and so I do have just handouts for you on where you can find more detailed information about that. But overall, we got some good news in terms of overall our educators are very happy. 91% report that they think their school is a good place to learn, and 87% report that their school is overall a good place to work. So there are some of the lowest ranked categories are around time and professional development. Teachers feel like they don't have time to really dig into some of their both having time for planning for their classes, but also for professional development. And novice teachers with less than 3 years of experience are overall much more positive about their experiences than more experienced teachers. So those are just some of the highlights there, but you can dig into those results and we can help you do that if you would like. I also attended the West Slope Conference, Superintendent Conference, and Board Member Rankin and Board Member Schroeder were there with me as well. And that's about, I'm going to get the number wrong, but it could have been about 25 superintendents around there that come, and that it's time for them to connect and share their lessons, and it's also time for us to listen and hear what some of the common concerns are. I would say that most of the discussion centered around school safety and how they were improving their school safety programs, improving their facilities, and supporting their students and teachers in doing those things. So those were some of the issues that we talked about, but we also had time to share with them about some of the accountability legislation and just some other kind of nitty-gritty stuff that we do, but it was great to be up there with them. I also met with my rural council in DeBeck. So we try to rotate that council around to different rural school districts, and so we met in the DeBeck School District and we got a tour of DeBeck, and that was great, and they have a wonderful school up there. It's about 30 miles outside of Grand Junction, and our rural council also brought up a lot of the school safety issues that are on their forefront of their minds. But we also talked a lot at the Rural Council about the educator preparation rules, because we know they're deeply interested in that, so we got a lot of their feedback at that time. And I will also say that it's Teacher Appreciation Week. We sort of did that yesterday, so we continue to do social media and other things just around that week and supporting that. We recently submitted a large federal grant for our Schools of Choice unit to ensure that we have support for our Schools of Choice team to continue the good work they're doing with supporting charters and innovation schools. So with that, I think I will conclude my report.
Okay. Mr. Durham, I'll start your end of the table. I know you haven't been doing anything.
Yeah, you have a big report from yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, nothing, I think that, and you all know my involvement with the, trying to deal with the Public Employees Retirement Association issue, and so obviously I do have a conflict of interest, which I've disclosed, I think, in previous cases, but legislation was passed that will hopefully stabilize the para fund going forward, and it's certainly not free. There are enormous costs associated with paying an unfunded liability of at least $32 million, but at least there's a plan in place, and I believe everybody in state government, the employers in the state and in the local divisions and in the school divisions, I think, are committed to trying to make this thing work. And hopefully down the road we won't become an Illinois or California with unfunded liabilities that we can't meet. In the near term, the result of the legislation will be we were facing a bond rating downgrade if we didn't do something, and I think we can be confident now that state and local government bonds will not be downgraded as a result of an unfunded liability with which we're not dealing. That should save school districts many millions of dollars in interest over the next few years.
Thanks for your hard work. Anything else?
I'm trying to think. I think that was about it.
Okay, we'll come back to you if you come up with something else. Board Member Flores.
Well, I've been dealing with my eyes, I thought I was going to go blind there for a while. It wasn't as easy as it had been explained, but I did go to an optometrist who really gave me more strength. And it's been sensitive, you know, reading all that work on a computer is hard. But I did go to, the CEA brings in people to the state from other countries. And this was last Friday afternoon.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
And I met a lot of people from Australia and from New Zealand and their families. Well, they come and teach here. There's a reciprocity. Oh, yes, I didn't go with them to the Capitol, but I was at their gathering.
I think she came after us. We left. Jane and I were there earlier.
Oh, you were there till what? Oh, no, I was there at about 1:30 when they gathered, yeah, and then they were gonna go over, yeah. So, I couldn't make it,
Is that all?
right, and, well,
That's fine.
a lot of reading.
Board Member Rankin?
I, along with you and Katie, attended the West Slope Superintendent's meeting in Grand Junction. And I'd love to connect with the leaders of the Western Slope. Doug Treadway, who is the superintendent of Gunnison Watershed School District, is retiring, and I was very upset about that because he's such a good friend and a great leader in Gunnison. But then I heard that Leslie Nichols, the Lake City superintendent, is taking his place, which is really, really cool. And so I got to talk to her a little bit, and we talked about next generation science standards and some other things that are going on up here. And Scott Cooper from Dolores, another superintendent, is leaving. And he is the one, if you recall, he started a preschool, got one of the preschools in the community to move into the school and make it a part of their pre-K, and it's a community preschool, and he's filled it up. It's really a great asset for the community. And he's leaving Dolores and going to be the assistant superintendent at Mesa 51 with Ken Hoptenstall. So that was kind of neat to learn about. There's all these musical chairs that go with superintendents. There's many changes going on out there on the Western Slope, but they all seem to be very good. Rangeley Middle School 8th graders, as well as Two Rivers Community School. Rangeley is in Rio Blanco County. Two Rivers Community Charter School is in Glenwood Springs. Both schools brought their 8th graders to the Capitol on 2 different days this past week. And it was kind of interesting because that report came out about charter school students in Colorado doing very well. And here are the 8th graders from these 2 schools. Both of them are doing quite well, and their teachers, they were so enthusiastic to come to the Capitol. Very interested in the architecture, and I think it's because it was so old. As I said, they were the backdrop to my current column about 8th graders on the NAEP, National Assessment of Educational Progress, scores that were just released. And as we were touring the Capitol, we got up to the 3rd floor, and a lot of you may know there's benches all along the 3rd floor, and there's lobbyists all over the 2nd floor. So some people sneak up to the 3rd floor. And as we were coming up from a tour in the Dome, we came back down and came out on the 3rd floor, and on one of these benches is Miss Mello, our lobbyist, kind of laying back on the bench and talking on the phone, and I had the students all stop, and I pointed and I said, now this is what a lobbyist does here at the Capitol. She immediately jumped up and said, well, I've been a lobbyist for so, and she just went on to the spiel about what a lobbyist does.
That's great.
That was a good save, but I'm not buying it. And so, yeah, that was one of the more interesting things this week. She's worked very hard at the Capitol. I see her all the time over there. That was pretty much what I did.
Board Member McClellan.
Yes, I too have a Ms. Mello story, but mine is not nearly as amusing. So Ms. Mello was kind enough to give me some information that I was able to share with members of the Colorado Special Education Advisory Committee. So she just gave me a rundown on legislation during this past session that may be of interest to them and might intersect with the work of their committee. So I appreciated being able to participate in their meeting. I also had the pleasure of attending 2 separate Aurora Scholars presentation nights. The presentations have become so large and there are so many children being honored. They honor a strong scholar with good character and community involvement for each grade, 1 per grade per school in Aurora. So that took 2 nights.
That's a lot of kids.
We shook a lot of hands,
Oh,
but it
that's
was
great.
a really neat experience. So that took place at Cherokee Trail High School and also at Hinckley High School. So 1 in Cherry Creek and 1 in APS. That was a great experience. I also had the pleasure of attending the opening and a tour of the Amazon Fulfillment Center in Aurora. And that was way more interesting than I thought it was going to be. So it was a very good experience, a lot of new jobs out there, and a lot of dignitaries talked about what it meant to the community and what it took to bring them here. So that was my month. Thank you.
Well, I'm really trying to get to the end of the academic year with graduation this Saturday.
Graduation
2 days,
Saturday.
yeah. But it was, I did attend a meeting in Kiowa, met briefly with Doug Bissonette, the superintendent there for Elizabeth Schools, and look forward to more communication with him and other superintendents in the 4th CD. Also worked on the Liberty Day initiative so that we could send some students out to 5th grade classrooms to teach kids about the Constitution, and that was rewarding. It was a good month. Thank you.
Scott?
Well, that end of year list reminder, I still haven't recovered from that, so I empathize with it. That's tough. Right after our last board meeting, I did a webinar. I talked about it at the board meeting about school safety, some of the lessons learned and what has happened since, or what sort of, I was asked to talk about what we took away from Columbine's experience from the district level, but also what are some generalized lesson learning that's gone on and what's changed in Colorado. So I just talked about some of the developments, some of the new types of legislation that are still and are being talked about. I also, excuse me, I had to cancel several sets of plans because I don't know what April brought, but it was either allergies or some crazy condition that I've been lucky enough to avoid for a very long time. So I really had to cut back on my time out. One of the highlights, in addition to working with NASB, was Jefferson County this is the time of the year when all of our districts are doing their awards or their recognitions or their look-aheads and that kind of thing. And Jefferson County's foundation, the Jeffco Schools Foundation, does quite a bit of their work along that regard right now. So they honored various adult groups and individuals as well as kids at this time of the year, mostly for service. So I try to drop by those whenever I can. And see, there's one other thing on here. I have a couple meetings with Jefferson County board members, check in with them occasionally. And the last, I attended the Gifted Education State Advisory Committee, which is a quarterly meeting. It's similar to the special ed group. They have made some headway on some of their goals, and they all do, but over the last year or so, one of the things they're feeling most happy about and satisfied is that there is now an endorsement. UNC now offers an endorsement in 3 strands of gifted education.
We just approved it.
So it is one of the areas where there is a shortage. There has been for quite a while, and that's been hindering the ability of schools to enroll kids. It sort of puts a little damper every now and then on screening and ID processes. So our gifted community in Colorado is very excited about that and gratified. So those are the highlights.
So, Ms. Goff, I want to mention to you that when I spoke with some of the staff from Cortez, I guess it was the school board president I spoke with, they are very interested in learning more about gifted programs and the potential, because they don't feel they have a program. So if there's some outreach that could be provided either by someone on staff or someone on the committee, I think that would be appreciated. Get in touch with Sherry Wright. I think she would really appreciate that.
The structure of their outreach is something that I think a lot of people in the state could benefit from.
Do they represent by region?
Yeah, they have what are called GERCs, which are regional directors, contacts. They have regional people, they have district directors, they have they're tied in with BOCES.
Okay.
Their operation is,
Okay.
it's pretty wide-reaching.
That's great.
Pretty
Anyway, I just want to
yeah.
mention it. So what I most enjoy about the Western Soups Conference is an opportunity for me just to sit down with my soups, because I'm not close. I only have 4 Western districts, Western Slope districts. But it was an opportunity for me to speak more with them, and I don't get to Grand County on a regular basis. It is not on my path to anywhere. I attended a meeting in Washington, D.C. I was invited to describe the Colorado programs in personal financial literacy. I was one of 5 speakers. It was quite interesting because, as we know, other states have mandates. They have curricular mandates. They have graduation mandates. And so I was kind of compared with some of the folks from some of the other districts who described what it is that they force their kids to take. The Secretary of Education spoke and said that this was an item that she wanted to spend more time on. She did not plan a federal mandate, but wanted to look at what are things that she could do. The Deputy Secretary of the Treasury also spoke. They're trying to figure out some ways to bring a greater attention to personal financial literacy around the country, feeling that that's and knowing that that's a huge problem. Interestingly, the PISA assessment that kids take has a set of questions about that, and it was on that basis, knowing that U.S. kids were very weak in that topic compared to students from other countries, that brought it to their attention, so now they want to look at it more carefully. So stay tuned. I was promised a sort of a summary of the meeting and have not received really any feedback, but I will share with you whatever comes from that. Supposedly there will be more discussions. I've also been involved in a couple of NASB items. I'm serving on a subcommittee for strategic planning. They are coming out with a strategic plan for the organization for the next 5 years, et cetera. They're also beginning a national cohort of folks for Leading for Equity and Excellence Project, LEAP. And I've been appointed to that committee, and we will meet for the first time in June when we have a June board meeting, and I'll report back to you what that's going to come to. It looks like it's a program that's going to go from now until our annual meeting. I guess the other thing I want to say, a couple things about the annual meeting. It's going to be in Denver. It may conflict with the Western Soups Conference based on the dates they said, but I did share with them that many of us would be in Denver at the time, and they said maybe there'll be an alternative time. But at that point, maybe we'll have a discussion about that as well as other. We're looking for Colorado State Board history, so if there's anyone out there who's got some history to share with us, since Colorado is the first state where NASB began 60 years ago. It's a 60-year. We're still looking for the closet where supposedly it started.
You ever find it?
Well, that's the expression. Well, either that or one of these closets that we have back here. We don't really know. We don't know anybody who was a state board member 60 years ago who can help us with that. Surprise, surprise. But maybe there'll be documentation.
Western history in the library, in the
The-
Denver Public Library has all kinds of records.
That would be
Someone in-
awesome if somebody would
Yeah.
like to look that up.
I'm working with someone in State Library that's pulling together some of this, the board history and information and stuff like that
Fantastic,
together.
that's
So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Board Member Flores, you had some more to add.
Yes, I did. I was invited by Representative Jonathan Singer to spend some time over in the House when the representatives were amending or adding amendments to the para bill, and so that was very interesting. Also, I did attend a couple of committees, education committee meetings, and I was out there with the teachers during the march for those 2 days, and really, I got an earful about what we're doing, and I don't know if CEA had spoken to them, but I heard about they didn't want that test in social studies. I did hear about that. I also heard and was concerned by one teacher who said that she had gotten a divorce, and her divorce decree had she had included the 3% that she was going to get in para, in her divorce decree. So, what is it now? 1.5. 1.5. That is sad, very sad. I don't know how she's gonna do it. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. But I really did enjoy being with and speaking with a lot of teachers that were in the march. Rebecca also was there one of the days. So we talked to a lot of teachers.
I was here. but
Thank
I
you.
wasn't over there. I was watching you.
All right, board members, if you have future business that you want us to consider at the June board meeting, we'll be completing our standards revision next month. We'll vote on the accountability plan for Manaw. We will vote on I hope we'll vote on the rules, educator licensing rules, educator effectiveness rules, et cetera. And we will have a notice of rulemaking for a hearing in August. So if there's anything else that you want to add, tell me now, tell me later.
Don't we vote on ELA?
Yeah, standards. That'll be the final.
Okay.
I meant to put that in there.
Okay, I just wanted to, you know, it may not have been the appropriate time to talk about that letter by that young man in high school who wrote to us. Basically, I think he wrote to us about, you know, feeling so like a sitting duck, you know, when people come in with guns and stuff. And he was trying to asking for our advice about giving students some agency to do something. And I think that we need, I don't know if we are, or the department needs to speak about that with young people, because I have heard from the Latino community that there are a lot of Hispanic Latino kids who are very worried about the shootings that are going on at schools and such. And so you heard from me that when I was in school, I was very concerned about and had nightmares concerning the atomic bomb that was going to, you know, be right there in Corpus Christi because of the naval thing there, and I didn't live very far from there, so there was great anxiety, I remember, and I'm sure that these kids are feeling scared. And I don't know how to comfort them, but I think we need to do something, we need to say something about that, even if it's a conference for students on the topic. I don't even want to.
Board Member Flores, I definitely appreciate that, and we have been hearing those sentiments across the state, just wanting to support both, all of those, students, teachers, principals, superintendents. So we have sort of redoubled our efforts to put on the front page of our website all of our school safety resources. We sent that out in our newsletters. We have a number of resources to give to schools and districts, including facilities assessments to make sure their facilities are secure and appropriate. We've heard good feedback from superintendents that when our facilities people go out and give tips and here's what you can do, that they're really thankful for that. But we also have a number of other school safety sort of advice and supports and those sorts of things. So we have been trying to make sure that that's prominent and available for our districts. But I appreciate that sentiment for sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Anthus.
Hey, Dr. Anthony, I'm sorry I lost track, but there was I think $30 or so million school safety grant. Are we the administrator of that grant here at the department?
Oh, I'm trying to remember
Are you
that one.
guys?
I don't think we are. I think it's actually going to the Public Safety,
So-
Office of Public Safety.
Probably
and
makes
they're-
sense. But
Yeah, that's
just
what I
was
believe.
curious. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I think, I appreciate that based on about 20 years. But it is hard to know where the hub of the responsibility or the hub point is. There have been a lot of districts I've been reading around the state that have been doing their own town halls or symposiums where they really do bring in all the law enforcement agents. Yeah, there is a variety of types of things, but the ones that I've been really listening to, going back and watching or looking at, have been local law enforcement, and that would be sheriffs, but also county commissioners are involved in that, or local city officials, or and the school district in some fashion. It's the civic level. It's really more, it's local, but it's bigger than district local. They've been great, and if you get all those people together, they all have a little bit different approach, but the parents and kids sitting there, they hear the common threads, and so it just starts to repeat some of those lessons that need to be repeated. Memorize phone number or 3, and here's what you do. But that kind of thing, I think, just having a no commitment, no obligation thing sponsored by us every now and then on some topic related to that, or related. It doesn't have to be that. We are creative, we can figure it out. But some way that leads for kids to be more, get them involved, get them civic minded.
That's right.
And bring them in here and give them the chance to do that sort of thing too. So, thank you, I agree with that.
Folks, I believe we're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.